My son's text message shattered everything I believed about our family. I'd rather lose my mother than lose my wife. Just 13 words, but they turned my world upside down. I knew if I didn't act, my son would lose his entire future to that woman. But if I intervened, I'd become the villain in my own child's story. Sometimes a mother has to choose between being loved and being right. This is how I chose to save my son, even if it meant losing him forever. My name is Margaret Ellison, though everyone calls me Maggie. At 68, I thought I'd seen enough of life to avoid any more surprises. My small furniture boutique on Main Street in Willowford, Georgia, had been my sanctuary for 23 years. Ever since my husband passed, that Tuesday morning started like any other brewing coffee in the back office, arranging the new shipment of accent chairs, watching the early morning sun filter through the storefront windows. The phone rang at 9:15 a.m. sharp. I almost didn't answer it, thinking it was another telemarketer, but something made me pick up. Is this Margaret Ellison? The voice was professional, clipped. Yes, this is she. Ma'am, this is Derek Morrison from Pioneer Credit Solutions. I'm calling regarding an outstanding debt of $52,000 under the name Lydia Carrington. Your number is listed as an emergency contact. My hand froze on the receiver. Lydia Carrington, my son Evan's fiancée. The wedding was in 3 weeks. There must be some mistake, I heard myself saying. What kind of debt? Online gambling debts, ma'am, multiple casino platforms. The accounts show significant activity over the past 18 months. After I hung up, I sat in my office chair, staring at the framed photo of Evan on my desk. His engagement photo with Lydia, both of them beaming at the camera. She was beautiful, long auburn hair, perfect smile, the kind of woman who turned heads. They'd met 2 years ago at a charity gala in Atlanta, Whirlwind Romance. He'd called it Now. Fragments of memories started clicking into place like pieces of a disturbing puzzle. Lydia always stepping away to take calls, her phone perpetually face down on tables. The way she'd changed the subject when I'd offered to help them set up a joint savings account for their future. Her vague explanations about her job in consulting that seemed to have no fixed office or regular hours. I pulled out my laptop and logged into my bank account. I'd been paying for this wedding almost everything. The venue at Rosewood Manor, $32,000. Catering from Southern Elegance, $28,000. Flowers, photography, the string quartet. It all added up to over $100,000. And the SUV, a brand new Mercedes GLE that I'd bought as an early wedding gift, still in my name because Lydia had said something about insurance complications. My chest tightened. This wasn't just about money. This was about my son, my only child, walking into something I was only beginning to understand. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Evan's number, then hesitated. What would I say? Hey, honey, I just found out your fiancé has a gambling problem. He was head over heels in love. Last week, he told me Lydia was the best thing that ever happened to him. Instead, I called my friend Rosa, who worked at the county clerk's office. Rosa, I need a favor. Can you look up any public records for Lydia Carrington? Anything at all? While waiting for Rosa to call back, I sat in my quiet store, watching normal people go about their normal lives through the window. A young couple browsed the dining sets, holding hands. The Tuesday morning felt surreal, like I was watching it through water. My phone buzzed. Not Rosa, another unknown number. Mrs. Ellison? This is Amanda from Sunset Recovery Services. I'm calling about a $48,000 debt. By the time Rosa called back an hour later, I'd received 3 more calls from different collection agencies. My hands were shaking. Maggie, honey? Rosa's voice was gentle. I found some things. 3 addresses in 3 different states over the past 5 years. 2 small claims court cases in Florida, and there's a bankruptcy filing from 4 years ago. I thanked her and hung up. Outside. Willowford continued its peaceful Tuesday morning existence. Inside my store, inside my chest, a storm was building. In 3 weeks, my son was supposed to marry this woman. I'd already paid for everything. More importantly, he'd already given her his heart. That's when I knew I had to make a choice. I could stay silent and watch my son marry a woman who was already drowning in debt and deception, or I could act and risk becoming the enemy in his love story. I locked the store early that day. I had evidence to gather. That evening, I spread everything across my dining room table like evidence in a crime scene. Every receipt, every contract, every credit card statement from the past year. The wedding folder alone was thick enough to be a novel, a very expensive novel written with my savings. The Mercedes paperwork sat on top. $48,000 for the GLE, $450, pearl white with beige leather interior. Lydia had picked it out, of course. "It's perfect for starting our family," she'd cooed, placing her manicured hand on Evan's arm. The title was still in my name. She'd insisted it was just temporary, something about her credit being tied up in a business venture. I pulled out my laptop and logged into the joint account I'd helped them set up 6 months ago. I deposited $20,000 as an engagement gift, meant to be their emergency fund. The balance showed $17,800. My throat went dry as I scrolled through the transactions. Wire transfer to BetStar International, $3,000. Payment to Lucky Dragon. Gaming, $1,500. Cash withdrawal at Riverside Casino, $2,000. The list went on, scattered between grocery purchases and utility bills like cancer cells among healthy tissue. What made my stomach turn wasn't just the gambling, it was the pattern. Every transaction happened when Evan was at work. Every withdrawal timed for his overnight shifts at the hospital. She knew exactly when he wouldn't notice. I dug deeper into the wedding contracts, the Rosewood Manor agreement, $32,000 for the venue, pagoda and gardens, the catering contract with Southern Elegance, $28,000 for 200 guests, including the raw bar and champagne fountain Lydia had insisted on. The florist charging $8,000 for ethereal white orchid arrangements. The photographer, the videographer, the string quartet, the custom invitations on handmade paper. $103,000, all in my name, all paid by me. At 11:30 p.m., I made myself chamomile tea and kept working. I found something else. A business registration for L&T Carrington Consulting, LLC, filed just 2 months ago. No actual business address, just a P box. No website, no clients, no tangible existence except on paper. But there were business credit applications, all listing astronomical projected revenues. My phone buzzed. A text from Evan. "Hey Mom, lunch tomorrow. Lydia wants to finalize the seating chart." I stared at his message. My sweet boy, working double shifts to save for their honeymoon. He'd show me the resort he'd booked in Maui, paid for with 6 months of overtime, while he was saving every penny. She was bleeding money at online casinos. I found myself at my computer again, this time searching her name on social media. Her profiles were pristine. Photos of charity events, wine tastings, yoga classes. The perfect future doctor's wife. But I noticed something. No tagged photos from before 2 years ago, like she'd appeared in Atlanta fully formed, with no past. Then I remembered something. Last month, she'd borrowed my car while the Mercedes was being detailed. She'd returned it with the navigation system showing an address I didn't recognize. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. Now, I typed that address into my search bar. Diamond Jack's Gaming Parlor, 40 miles outside the city limits. I went back to the bank statements. That same day, there was a cash withdrawal for $800 from their joint account. The timestamp showed 2:14 p.m. when she'd told us she was at a spa appointment. By 1 a.m., I had everything documented. Screenshots, printouts, a timeline that showed a clear pattern of deception. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. But evidence wasn't the problem. The problem was my son. I thought about Evan at 12, building model airplanes with intense concentration. At 18, his valedictorian speech about following your dreams. At 28, the day he graduated from medical school, tears streaming down his face as he hugged me. At 32, the night he called to tell me he'd met someone special. "She's different, Mom," he'd said. "She sees me for who I really am." But did she? Or did she see a successful doctor with a mother who owned a business and had good credit? I closed my laptop and sat in the darkness of my dining room. Through the window, I could see the empty street, the streetlights casting long shadows. Somewhere in this sleeping town, my son was probably next to the woman he loved, dreaming of their future together, a future built on lies and funded by debt. Tomorrow, they wanted to finalize the seating chart. Tomorrow, I'd have to sit across from her, smile and pretend I didn't know she was a fraud. Or tomorrow, I could start dismantling the wedding I'd paid for, piece by expensive piece. I gathered all the papers, organizing them into neat piles, the contracts, the bank statements, the evidence. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The storm inside had settled into something harder, colder. I'd raised Evan to be trusting, to see the good in people. Maybe I'd done too good a job, but I'd also raised him to value truth. The question was, which lesson would win when they collided? As I climbed the stairs to bed, I made my decision. I wouldn't confront them tomorrow. Not yet. First, I needed to understand the full scope of what we were dealing with. I needed to protect what I could. Starting tomorrow, I would begin to quietly, carefully, legally take apart the house of cards Lydia had built with my money and my son's heart. The lunch was at our usual spot, Magnolia Cafe on 3rd Street. I arrived early, chose a corner booth where I could see them coming. My coffee grew cold as I rehearsed different ways to broach the subject. Each one sounded wrong in my head. They walked in at 12:30 p.m. sharp, Evan's arm around Lydia's waist. She wore a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly utilities. Her engagement ring, the 2-carat diamond Evan had spent his entire bonus on, caught the light as she waved. "Mom!" Evan's face lit up. That same smile from when he was 7 and lost his first tooth. "Margaret, you look wonderful." Lydia air-kissed my cheek. Her perfume was expensive. Cloying, we ordered salads for them. Soup for me, though my appetite had vanished. Lydia pulled out her wedding planner, a leather-bound book with gold-embossed initials. "So, the Harringtons need to be at table 3, but not near the Morettis," she was saying, her perfectly manicured finger tracing the seating chart. "And Evan's colleague David has a new girlfriend, so we'll need to add a placement." I watched my son as she talked. He gazed at her with such pure adoration it made my chest ache. When she reached for her water, he moved the glass closer without thinking. When she frowned at something in her notes, he touched her shoulder. "Actually," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears, "I wanted to talk about the finances." Lydia's hand stilled on the page. "With the wedding so close, we should make sure everything's in order." I kept my tone light, casual. "You know, for tax purposes. My accountant's been asking about the large withdrawals." "Of course." Lydia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Everything's paid for, right? You've been so generous, Margaret. We can never thank you enough." "Mom's been amazing." Evan squeezed my hand across the table. "We're planning to pay you back after I finish my fellowship." "That's not necessary," I said, watching Lydia's face. "But I am curious about your plans after the wedding." "Financial planning is so important for young couples." "Oh, I completely agree." Lydia jumped in. "I've actually been looking into some investment opportunities. My consulting work has opened some doors." "That's wonderful. What kind of consulting do you do exactly?" A pause, barely noticeable, but there. "Business development, helping startups find their market position." She turned to Evan. "Honey, should we tell her about the Morrison account?" He looked blank. "The Morrison account? The one I mentioned last week? They're interested in a 6-month contract." She patted his hand. "You've been so busy with your shifts. Poor thing." I sipped my cold coffee. "That sounds promising. With your wedding coming up, you must be being careful with expenses." "Oh, absolutely. I've actually been helping Evan budget." She laughed, a tinkling sound like breaking glass. "He's brilliant with medicine, but hopeless with money. Did you know he wasn't even checking our joint account statements?" My jaw clenched. The audacity of her, spinning her theft into his failing. "Everyone has different strengths," I said carefully. "Speaking of which, I've been thinking, Maybe it would be wise to keep your finances somewhat separate at first, just until you both get settled into married life. Evan frowned. But we're a team. Mom, what's mine is hers. What's yours is hers. I repeated the words slowly. That's beautiful, honey. But sometimes protecting each other means being practical too. What if one of you had unexpected debt, for instance? You wouldn't want that to affect the other person's credit. Lydia's knuckles went white around her fork. Is there something specific you're concerned about? Margaret? Her voice had an edge now, sharp beneath the sweetness. I met her gaze directly. Should I be? The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Evan looked from me to Lydia, confusion clouding his features. Mom, what's going on? Nothing. Sweetheart, I just want to make sure you're both starting your marriage on solid ground. You know, full transparency. No surprises. We don't have any secrets, Lydia said quickly. Too quickly. Do we, babe? Of course not. Evan's voice was firm, protective. He moved closer to her. Mom, I don't know what this is about, but Lydia and I trust each other completely. There it was. The wall going up between us, brick by brick. His loyalty shifting, choosing her. Just like she'd planned. I'm sure you do, I said softly. I just worry. It's what mothers do. Well, don't. His tone had cooled. We're adults. We can handle our own finances. Lydia touched his arm, playing the peacemaker. Evan, your mom's just looking out for us. It's sweet. She turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Margaret, I promise you, everything is under control. You don't need to worry about a thing. The waiter brought our food. We ate in relative silence. The seating chart forgotten. Evan kept shooting me disappointed looks while Lydia played with her salad, occasionally murmuring something soothing to him. As we prepared to leave, Evan hugged me, but it felt stiff, obligatory. I don't know what that was about, Mom, but it wasn't cool. Lydia's going to be your daughter-in-law. You need to trust her like I do. They left together, Lydia's hand possessive on his back. I sat alone in the booth, watching through the window as they walked to his car. She was talking animatedly, gesturing. He nodded along, his shoulders tense. My phone buzzed. A text from Evan. I'd rather lose my mother than lose my wife. 13 words. That's all it took to show me where I stood. I left cash on the table and walked to my car. My hands were steady as I drove home. The hurt would come later, sharp and devastating. But right now, I had work to do. If my son wanted to choose her, that was his right, but I didn't have to fund his destruction, and I didn't have to make it easy for her to destroy him. That night, I made a list. Every vendor, every contract, every penny I'd spent. Tomorrow, I would start making calls. The wedding was in 18 days. Lydia Carrington had 17 days left to enjoy my money. Victor Hale's law office occupied the second floor of a restored Victorian on Peachtree Street. I'd known Victor for 15 years. He'd handled my husband's estate, my business incorporation, every major legal moment of my life. His secretary, Grace, hugged me when I walked in. Maggie, here for the wedding papers? She beamed. You must be so excited. Something like that. I managed. Victor stood when I entered his office. All 6 feet 4 inches of him unfolding from behind his mahogany desk. His hair had gone completely silver since I'd last seen him, but his handshake remained firm. Maggie, good to see you. He gestured to the leather chairs. Grace mentioned something about wedding contracts. I set my folder on his desk. I need to know my legal options for canceling everything. His eyebrows rose slightly. But Victor had been a lawyer too long to show real surprise. He opened the folder, adjusting his reading glasses. For 20 minutes, he reviewed each contract in silence, occasionally making notes on his legal pad. I watched the clock, 10:45 a.m., 10:50, 11, each tick bringing me closer to a decision I couldn't take back. Well, he finally said, leaning back, the good news is everything's in your name. You're the contracting party. Not Evan or his fiancé. That gives you complete control. And the bad news? Cancellation penalties. Most of these vendors have clauses for events canceled within 30 days. You're looking at 10 to 15% penalties on average. The venue is stricter, 25%. I did the math quickly. So, about 15,000 in penalties to cancel everything? Roughly. However, he tapped one contract. The catering can be modified until 72 hours before the event without penalty. You could reduce it to the minimum. Save most of that, 28,000. What about the Mercedes? Victor smiled slightly. That's the easiest. It's in your name. You have the title. You can do whatever you want with it. Sell it. Return it to the dealer, keep it. They might take it back for a slight loss if it's still new. And the joint bank account? Trickier. If your name's on it as a custodian or co-signer, you might have withdrawal rights. But if it's truly joint between them, you can't touch it without potentially facing legal issues. I thought about the 17,800 sitting in that account, slowly being bled away to online casinos. What would you do? I asked quietly. If it were your son? Victor removed his glasses, cleaned them slowly. I have a daughter, 26, married last year. If I discovered her fiancé was problematic, I'd like to think I'd have done something. But Maggie, you need to be prepared. This could destroy your relationship with Evan. It's already destroyed. He just doesn't know it yet. He studied me for a long moment. All right, here's what we do. I'll draft cancellation letters for each vendor, citing unforeseen circumstances. We'll offer to pay the penalties immediately to avoid any disputes. For the Mercedes, I suggest taking it to CarMax tomorrow for an appraisal. You'll lose maybe $5,000 on it, but you'll have immediate cash. Do it. Victor started typing. I'll need you to sign a power of attorney so I can handle the negotiations. Some vendors might push back. Try to enforce full payment. I'll handle them. What about afterwards? If they try to sue me? For what? Canceling contracts you signed and paid for? They have no standing. Lydia might try to claim detrimental reliance, that she was damaged by relying on your promises, but she'd have to prove actual damages. And frankly, he glanced at my evidence folder. I don't think she wants us digging into her finances in court. Relief washed over me. So I'm protected? Legally, yes. Emotionally, he shrugged. That's above my pay grade. We spent another hour going through details. Which vendors to call first, how to handle the deposits, what documentation to keep. Victor's secretary made copies of everything while he prepared the letters. One more thing, I said as we finished. Is there any way to freeze that joint account to protect what's left? Not without a court order, and you'd need standing. Proof of fraud or imminent harm. But Maggie, he leaned forward. You could talk to the bank manager. Informally. Express your concerns as a parent. They can't freeze the account, but they might flag it for suspicious activity. I made a mental note. First Community Bank, where I'd done business for 20 years, where the manager, Patricia, had sent flowers when my husband died. Victor walked me to the door. Maggie, are you sure about this? Once we send these letters, there's no going back. I thought about Evan's text, about choosing her over me, about the debt and the lies and the future he couldn't see coming. Send them today, I said. Every single one. Outside, Atlanta hummed with its usual energy. People rushed past, living their normal lives with their normal problems. None of them were about to detonate a bomb in their own family. My phone rang as I reached my car. Evan. Mom, I want to apologize for lunch yesterday, and for that text. I was upset, but that's no excuse. My throat tightened. It's okay, honey. No, it's not. You're my mother. You've done everything for us. Lydia and I were talking, and we want to take you to dinner tonight to apologize properly. That's not necessary. Please, Mom. 8 p.m. at Chateau Elan? Lydia made reservations. Of course she did. The most expensive restaurant in town. On my credit card, no doubt. I'll be there, I said. Great. And Mom, I love you. No matter what, okay? I sat in my car for a long time after he hung up, clutching the phone. Tonight. They'd wine and dine me with money I'd given them. While Victor's letters made their way to every wedding vendor in the city. By tomorrow morning, their dream wedding would be in ruins, but at least my son would be free, even if he hated me for it. I drove home to wait for the storm. The next morning, I started at 7 a.m. sharp. Victor had emailed me copies of all the cancellation letters he'd sent, but I wanted to make the calls personally. Some things required a human touch, even in destruction. First call, Rosewood Manor. Mrs. Ellison calling about the final walkthrough? The events coordinator, Jennifer, sounded cheerful. Actually, Jennifer, I need to cancel the Ellison-Carrington wedding. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. What? Unforeseen circumstances. I understand there's a 25% penalty. I'd like to arrange payment today. But the wedding is in 17 days. We've turned away 3 other bookings for that date. I understand I'll wire the penalty fee within the hour. $8,000. Correct? I heard papers shuffling. Mrs. Ellison, is everything all right? Is someone ill? Please send the cancellation confirmation to my email. Thank you for understanding. I hung up before she could protest further. One down, Southern Elegance Catering was next. The owner, Marcus, actually laughed at first. Maggie, you're joking. We've already ordered the Wagyu beef. The lobsters are being flown in from Maine. Can any of it be returned? The seafood? No, the beef. Possibly, but reduce the order to your minimum contract requirement. Bill me for anything that can't be returned. The minimum is 10 guests. You contracted for 200. Then prepare food for 10. Donate the rest to the homeless shelter if you'd like. Maggie, this is insane. What happened? Send me the revised invoice. Marcus, please. Each call got easier. The florist tried to guilt me about the orchids specially ordered from Thailand. The photographer threatened to keep the entire deposit. The string quartet leader, a young woman named Sarah, actually cried. This was going to pay my rent for 3 months, she said. Send me your fee. I'll pay the full amount, not just the penalty. Really? It's not your fault the wedding is canceled. Send the invoice. By 10 a.m., I'd made 18 calls. My ear hurt from the phone. My throat was dry, but the wedding was systematically disappearing. Each vendor had their own reaction. Anger, confusion, sympathy, but money talked. Penalties were agreed upon. Contracts terminated. The Mercedes dealership was my next stop. I drove the pearl-white SUV one last time, running my hand over the leather seats Lydia had selected. The finance manager, Carl, didn't hide his surprise. You want to return it? But you just bought it 3 weeks ago. What's your best offer to take it back? He typed into his computer, frowning. We could offer $42,000. You'd lose $6,000. Done. Don't you want to think about it? Maybe discuss it with your family? The check, please. Made out to Margaret Ellison. I walked out with a cashier's check, took an Uber home. One less thing tying me to Lydia Carrington. At 2 p.m., my phone started exploding. 17 missed calls from Evan, 23 from Lydia. Text messages in all caps. What did you do? The venue called saying you canceled? Mom, answer your phone. This better be a mistake. I turned off my phone and drove to First Community Bank. Patricia Morse, the branch manager, greeted me with her usual warmth until she saw my face. Maggie? What's wrong? I need to discuss my son's joint account. I'm concerned about unusual activity. She led me to her office, closed the door. We can't disclose information about accounts you're not party to. I understand, but as someone who's banked here for 20 years, who's referred dozens of customers, I'm telling you there's a problem. Gambling debts, collection agencies. I'm not asking you to do anything improper. Just keep an eye on things. Patricia studied me for a long moment. I'll note your concerns in our system. Sometimes we flag accounts for review if we notice unusual patterns. Thank you. Back home, I found Evan's car in my driveway. He was sitting on my porch steps, head in his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were red. How could you? His voice was raw. How could you destroy everything without even talking to me? You wouldn't have listened. Lydia is devastated. Her family is flying in from Colorado. Her friends have already bought dresses. Then she should have thought about that before gambling away your future. He stood abruptly. What are you talking about, Mo? I unlocked my door. Come inside. There are things you need to see. I don't want to see anything. I want you to fix this. Call everyone back. Say it was a mistake. The only mistake was paying for a wedding built on lies. He followed me inside, pacing my living room like a caged animal while I retrieved my evidence folder. Sit down, Evan. I don't want to sit. I want to know why my mother has lost her mind. I spread the papers on the coffee table. Bank statements, transaction records, the business registration for her fake company, the collection agency notices. Look at them. Look at them. He sank onto the couch, picking up the first statement. I watched his face change as he read, confusion shifting to disbelief. This has to be a mistake. Lydia doesn't gamble. Check the dates. Every transaction while you were at work. 3,000 here, 2,000 there, 52,000 in debt to online casinos. Evan, that's just what the collection agencies have found. His hands shook as he picked up another paper. The joint account, but that's our wedding money. It was your wedding money. He looked up at me. Lost. You're wrong. You have to be wrong. My heart broke for him, but I held steady. Call the bank. Check for yourself. Ask her about Pioneer Credit Solutions or Sunset Recovery Services. Ask her about the $48,000 Mercedes that's now returned to the dealer. You returned her car. My car. In my name. That she picked out and I paid for. He stood abruptly. Papers scattering. This is insane. You've always been controlling. But this... Controlling. I gave you everything. Paid for your entire wedding. Supported your choices. Until you didn't approve anymore, then you just destroyed it all. She's using you. Evan, can't you see that? The only thing I see is my mother trying to ruin my life because she can't let go. He stormed toward the door. I called after him. Ask her about Diamond Jack's gaming parlor. Ask her where she really goes during her consulting meetings. He paused at the door, his back to me. I'm going to marry her. Mom, with or without your blessing. With or without your money, because I love her, and she loves me. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't put you $50,000 in debt before you even say, I do. He left without another word, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I sat among the scattered evidence, wondering if I'd saved my son or lost him forever. The dinner at Chateau Elan was in 4 hours, somehow. I doubted the reservation would still stand. The pounding on my door at 9 p.m. could have woken the dead. I knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. Lydia stood there. Her perfect facade finally cracked. Mascara streaked her cheeks. Her usually pristine hair hung limp behind her. Evan looked hollow. I opened the door. You vindictive bitch, Lydia hissed, pushing past me into my house. Lydia, Evan started, but she whirled on him. No. She doesn't get to destroy our lives and then act dignified. She turned back to me, eyes blazing. Do you have any idea what you've done? My parents are already in the air. My cousins took time off work. Everyone thinks we're getting married in 2 weeks. Then perhaps you should have thought about that before stealing from my son. I never stole anything. Those were investments. In online casinos? You don't understand anything about modern financial strategies. I understand debt collection agencies. 3 of them called me about your financial strategies. Evan stood between us. Stop! Both of you! Just stop! She's trying to control you. Lydia grabbed his arm. Can't you see that? She's jealous. Evan, she can't stand that you love someone more than her. I canceled contracts in my name that I was paying for. I said evenly. That's not control. That's my right. Your right? Lydia laughed, harsh and bitter. What about our rights? What about the life we're building together? Built on what foundation? Lies, debt, secret gambling accounts? I made some bad investments. So what? Everyone has debt. Not everyone hides it from their partner. Not everyone gambles away their wedding fund while their fiancé works double shifts. Stop it, Evan's voice cracked. Just stop. We both looked at him. He seemed to have aged 5 years in 5 hours. Lydia, he said quietly. Is it true? The gambling? She softened immediately, reaching for his face. Baby, It's not what she's making it sound like. I had some setbacks, yes, but I'm handling it. $52,000? His voice was barely a whisper. Her hand dropped. How did you... I called them Pioneer Credit Solutions. They confirmed everything. He stepped back from her touch. When were you going to tell me? After the wedding, I didn't want to stress you. You didn't want me to know. That's not fair. Your mother has poisoned you against me. This is what she wants. Don't you see? She wants you all to herself. Forever her little boy. Don't. His voice was sharp now. Don't make this about her. Did you or did you not take money from our joint account to gamble? Lydia's face cycled through emotions. Anger, calculation, desperation. Finally, she lifted her chin. Yes, but I was going to win it back. I had a system. A system, he laughed, but there was no humor in it. Jesus Christ, Lydia, I love you. Doesn't that matter more than money? You lied to me. For months. Years. How long has this been going on? She didn't answer. In the silence. We heard a car door slam outside, through my front window. I saw my neighbor Gloria Whitford getting out of her car. She glanced toward my house, probably drawn by the raised voices. You know what? Lydia spun toward me. You win. Congratulations. Margaret, you got what you wanted. I wanted my son to be happy. No, you wanted my son to be yours. Well, you can have him. She turned to Evan. When you realize what you've lost, when you're alone because no woman will ever measure up to Mommy's standards, remember this moment. She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and that car? I've been driving it for 3 weeks. Try proving I didn't have permission. See how that goes in court. It's already been returned to the dealer, I said quietly. Her face went white. What? This afternoon, I have the check. You can't... She looked at Evan desperately. Are you going to let her do this to us? He was silent, staring at the floor. Fine. She yanked off her engagement ring, threw it at his feet. There, happy now, Margaret. You broke us up. Your precious baby boy is all yours again. She slammed out, through the window. I watched her get into a red Toyota I didn't recognize, a friend's car. Probably, or another secret. Evan bent slowly, picked up the ring, 2 carats, radiant cut, that had cost him 3 months' salary. Don't, he said when I stepped toward him. Just don't. Honey, I know this hurts. Do you? He looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Do you know what it's like to find out your whole life is a lie? To realize the person you loved never existed? Yes, I said softly. I do. When your father... Don't compare this to Dad. He was sick. He couldn't help what the cancer did to him. I meant before that. The affairs, Evan, the gambling. Did you think I never knew? He stared at me. Dad didn't gamble. Where do you think our savings went the year you turned 15? Why do you think I started working 60-hour weeks at the store? You said business was bad. I lied, to protect you, to keep our family together. And when he died, I let you keep your perfect image of him. I sat down heavily. Maybe that was wrong. Maybe if you'd known, you'd have seen the signs with Lydia. He sank onto the couch across from me, still clutching the ring. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. You're trusting there's a difference. Everyone will know. All our friends, our colleagues. God, I announced it at the hospital. Everyone congratulated me. He looked up. What am I supposed to tell people? The truth, that the wedding is off. You don't owe anyone details. The truth. He laughed bitterly. The truth is, my mother nuked my wedding and my fiancé turned out to be a gambling addict. That's quite a story. The truth is, you discovered a problem before it destroyed your life. That's not failure. Evan, that's wisdom. We sat in silence for a long moment outside. Gloria's porch light went on. Normal suburban life, continuing around our small tragedy. She was at the marina, he said suddenly. What? 2 weeks ago. When she said she was at the bridal shower planning meeting, I saw a charge from the marina restaurant on our credit card. When I asked, she said she'd grabbed lunch there after. He rubbed his face. But Gloria just told me she saw her there with some man, said they looked close. My heart ached for him. But but I kept quiet. "How long have you known?" he asked. "About the gambling?" "2 days. The collection agency started calling the store. And you immediately went nuclear? Couldn't have talked to me first? Would you have believed me? Or would you have warned her, given her time to spin more lies?" He didn't answer, which was answer enough. "I'm not staying here tonight," he said finally, standing. I need to think. Alone. Evan, I'm not forgiving you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You took something from me today. Mom, not just the wedding. You took my choice. She took your choice the moment she lied to you. Maybe, but you made sure I couldn't even try to work through it." He headed for the door. "I'll call you when I'm ready. Don't contact me until then." He left quietly this time. No slamming doors, somehow. That was worse. I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the ghosts of the evening's confrontation, the evidence still scattered on my coffee table, Lydia's perfume still hanging in the air, the echo of my son's disappointment filling every corner. I'd won. The wedding was off, the money recovered, my son saved from financial ruin, so why did victory taste like ash in my mouth? 3 days passed in silence. I went through the motions at the store, smiled at customers, rearranged displays, but my mind was elsewhere. Every time the phone rang, my heart jumped. It was never Evan. On the 4th day, my phone rang at 11:15 a.m. Unknown number, Fort Lauderdale area code. "Is this Margaret Ellison?" "Yes. My name is Sandra Price. I'm Lydia Carrington's cousin. I heard about what happened with the wedding." I gripped the phone tighter. "How can I help you?" "I think I'm the one who can help you. Or rather, your son. He needs to know he's not the first." My mouth went dry. "What do you mean? Can we talk in person? I'm actually driving up from Florida. I could meet you tomorrow if that works." We arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown. I spent the rest of the day distracted, wondering what fresh hell was about to be revealed. Sandra Price looked nothing like her cousin. Where Lydia was polished and perfect, Sandra was natural minimal makeup, gray streaking her brown hair, worry lines around her eyes. She clutched a worn folder as she sat across from me. "Thank you for meeting me," she began. "I've wanted to speak up for years, but Lydia, she has a way of making you feel like you're the crazy one. I'm familiar with the feeling." Sandra smiled grimly. "I bet you are." She opened the folder. "This is Marcus Henley. He was engaged to Lydia 3 years ago in Fort Lauderdale." The photo showed a handsome man in his late 30s, standing on a boat, grinning at the camera, happy, unsuspecting. They dated for 18 months. He owned a chain of fitness centers, did very well for himself. Lydia moved in after 6 months, got engaged after a year. He paid for everything, her car, her clothes, the ring, even gave her a credit card for wedding expenses. I could see where this was going. Let me guess, gambling and affairs. And she was seeing his business partner behind his back. Marcus found out 2 weeks before the wedding when his partner confessed. By then, she'd run up $60,000 in debt on his cards and taken another $30,000 from their joint accounts. Dear God. It gets worse. When he confronted her, she accused him of being abusive, filed a restraining order, told everyone he'd hit her, that she was fleeing for her safety. Marcus lost clients, friends turned their backs on him. His business partner bought him out for pennies on the dollar. But surely the truth came out? Sandra pulled out another paper. Bank records proved the theft, but the damage was done. His reputation was destroyed. Last I heard, he moved to Texas, started over, still single, still paying off the debt she left him with. I stared at the photos, the bank statements, the police reports, a pattern. Clear as day. Why didn't you warn anyone? I tried. When I heard she was dating someone new in Atlanta, I called, but she'd already poisoned him against me, told him I was jealous, mentally unstable, that I'd tried to sabotage her relationships before. Sandra's voice was bitter. She's very good at playing the victim. My son needs to see this. That's why I'm here. I couldn't save Marcus, but maybe I can save your son from the same fate. She pushed the folder across to me. There's more. Email evidence of the affair. the fake abuse claims she made, character statements from people who knew them both, and she hesitated. What? Contact information for Marcus. He said he'd be willing to talk to anyone else she targeted, to tell his story, show them what she's capable of. I took the folder with shaking hands. Why do this? Why now? Because I heard she was doing it again. My aunt called, all excited about Lydia's wedding to a doctor, said she'd finally found true love, was turning her life around. Sandra laughed bitterly. I knew better. Lydia doesn't change. She just finds new victims. Has she done this to others? There was someone before Marcus, a professor at her college, but he was married, wanted to keep it quiet, paid her to go away, from what I understand. Sandra stood. Your son is lucky. Mrs. Ellison. You saved him from years of pain. He doesn't feel lucky. He will. When the anger fades, when he realizes what you protected him from, he'll understand. She paused at the door. Tell him to call Marcus, man to man. It might help. After she left, I sat with the folder, reading through every horrifying detail. The pattern was so clear. Find a successful man, create a whirlwind romance, get access to money, bleed them dry, then play victim when caught. I drove home with the evidence burning like a coal in my passenger seat. Part of me wanted to race to Evan's apartment, force him to look at it all. But I remembered his words, don't contact me until I'm ready. Instead, I went home and made dinner for one, watched the news without absorbing a word. At 8:45 p.m., my doorbell rang. Evan stood there, looking exhausted. He'd lost weight in just 4 days, his scrubs hanging loose. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He went straight to the kitchen, poured himself coffee like he'd done 1,000 times before. I've been thinking, he said without preamble, about what you said, about Dad. I waited. I remember that year, you working constantly, him always having business trips. I remember finding you crying in the laundry room once. You said it was just stress. You were 15. You didn't need that burden. But maybe I did. Maybe if I'd known people could lie like that. People you love. He trailed off. There's something you need to see, I said quietly. I retrieved Sandra's folder, set it on the table between us. He stared at it like it might bite. Well, what is this? Evidence that you weren't the first, that this is what she does. He was quiet for a long time, reading. I watched his face change, shock, anger, disgust, and finally, a strange kind of relief. She destroyed him, he said finally. This Marcus guy. She destroyed his whole life. She tried to destroy yours too. Yeah, but... He looked up at me. You wouldn't let her. No, I wouldn't. He closed the folder, pushed it away. I called the bank today. The joint account, she withdrew the rest yesterday. Every penny. I'm not surprised. $17,000. Gone. He laughed, but it was hollow. You know what the worst part is? I still miss her. How messed up is that? You miss who you thought she was. That's normal, Evan, it's grief. Sandra's cousin left a number. Marcus. Should I call him? That's up to you. He stood, paced to the window. I've been so angry at you. Furious. You broke us up. Canceled everything without asking me. I know. But you were right. If you'd told me first, I would have confronted her, given her time to spin it, to cry, and promise to change. I would have married her anyway. Probably. He turned to face me. How did you know what to do? How were you so sure? Because I'd been there before. With your father. I knew what it looked like when someone you loved was lying to you. The signs were all there. I just acted faster this time. I'm sorry, Mom, for what I said, for choosing her over you. You were in love. Love makes us do foolish things. Thank you, he said quietly, for saving me. Even when I didn't want to be saved. I went to him then, and he let me hold him like I hadn't since he was young. My tall, brilliant son who still had so much to learn about the darkness people could carry. So what now? He asked, pulling back. Now you heal. You call Marcus if you want. You go to work. You let time do its job. And Lydia? Is someone else's problem now. He gathered the folder. I think I will call him Marcus. Maybe it'll help to talk to someone who understands. At the door, he paused. "Mom, next time I date someone, will you tell you if I see red flags? Absolutely. And good." He kissed my forehead. "I love you. I love you too, baby." I watched him drive away, the folder of evidence on his passenger seat. He wasn't healed. That would take time. But he was free. And sometimes, that's all a mother can give her child. Freedom from a future that would have destroyed them. The wedding that never was had cost me $15,000 in penalties and my son's trust. But I'd gotten both my boy and my money back from a woman who would have taken everything. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply refusing to be another victim in someone's long con game. The call from Marcus Henley came at 10:30 p.m. Evan had given him my number, said I was the one who'd exposed Lydia. His voice was warm, grateful. "Mrs. Ellison, I wanted to thank you personally. Your son told me what you did. Not many parents would have had that courage. I just couldn't watch it happen again. He's lucky to have you. I wish..." He paused. "I wish someone had warned me. Could have saved myself 3 years of rebuilding." We talked for 20 minutes. He told me about his recovery, his new life in Texas, the woman he'd just started dating who knew his whole story and loved him anyway. There was hope in his voice that hadn't been in Sandra's photos. "Tell your son it gets better," he said before hanging up. "The anger fades. The trust comes back. Just takes time." 2 weeks later, on what would have been Evan's wedding day, we spent the afternoon at my house. No fancy venue, no 200 guests, no string quartet, just mother and son. Photo albums spread across the coffee table, talking about his father for the first time with complete honesty. He wasn't a bad man, I told him, just weak in some ways. Strong in others, human, like all of us, Evan said quietly. The doorbell rang at 4 p.m. We exchanged glances. Neither of us was expecting anyone. Gloria Whitford stood on my porch with a casserole dish and a sympathetic smile. "I know today must be hard. Thought you might not feel like cooking." Behind her, I saw other neighbors approaching. Patricia from the bank with a fruit arrangement, Rosa with her famous Tres Leches cake, even Victor Hale with his wife, carrying wine. "We heard the wedding was off," Patricia said gently. "Wanted you to know you have friends." They filled my house with warmth and chatter, carefully avoiding any mention of Lydia. These people who'd watched Evan grow up, who'd sent flowers when his father died, who'd celebrated when he got into medical school. Our real family, chosen by years of proximity and kindness. "Thank you," Evan whispered to me as we watched them arrange food in the kitchen, "for not letting me marry her, for being the villain so I could see the truth. You'd have done the same for me. In a heartbeat." Later, after everyone left, we sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the humid Georgia evening, the wedding dress I'd never see, the grandchildren who'd have different mothers, the future that had shifted course. It all seemed less important than this moment of peace. Evan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. "Unknown number, text message." He read aloud. "I know what you did. You'll regret this." "Block it," I said firmly. "She'll try anything to worm back in. Don't give her the opening." He deleted the message without responding. Marcus said she harassed him for months after, changed numbers, created fake profiles, had friends contact him. "Then we'll be ready, both of us." He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. Both of us. I like that better than choosing sides. A month later, the bills were settled, the vendors paid, the drama fading into memory. Evan had started therapy, working through his trust issues with professional help. I'd returned to my routine at the store, though with a new appreciation for quiet mornings. The last piece of business came in a certified letter from a law firm in Denver. Lydia was threatening to sue for intentional infliction of emotional distress and interference with contractual relations. Victor Hale laughed when I showed him. "Let her try. I've got a folder full of evidence that would make any judge throw her out of court. Plus," he grinned, "Marcus Henley already sent me his files, just in case." We sent back a single response. Any legal action would result in immediate criminal charges for fraud and theft. We never heard from her again. 6 months later, at Thanksgiving dinner, Evan brought someone new, a pediatric nurse named Amy who laughed easily and insisted on helping with dishes. I watched them together, saw the way she looked at him when she thought no one was watching. Real love, not performance. I like her. I told him as we packed up leftovers. Yeah? And he looked vulnerable, seeking approval he'd once rejected. Yeah, she has kind eyes. Mom? He handed me the last container. If you see anything concerning, I'll tell you immediately. Promise. Promise. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the text message Evan had received on his wedding day. It's over. I ended it. Not a defeat, not a failure, just the end of one story and the beginning of another. He'd lost a fiancée but kept his future. Lost a wedding but gained wisdom. Lost money but kept his mother. Sometimes love means being willing to be hated. Sometimes protection looks like destruction. Sometimes the best gift you can give your child is the villain they need you to be. Just long enough for them to see the truth. And sometimes, late at night when the world is quiet and your conscience is clear, that's enough. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect with others who understand the complexities of family, love, and the hard choices we sometimes have to make. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts and experiences. Your stories matter too, and you never know who might need to hear them.